back from when I made my first CSS class. And take it from there. All right, folks. So I will see everybody tomorrow. I have to go do some grading.
Right, great.
Thank you.
And I already solved the notification problem. Just don't do them. Turn them off. They're bad for you.
You grading here or you going?
I'm going right here.
So we'll talk.
Notifications hurt your mental health. Nice. You guys gonna be here tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be here.
So, are we ready to start?
Yep, I'm
Okay.
about to drop a link.
So, it's me, I guess. It's my session idea. So, let me introduce it briefly. So, this is notifications, and that's a very loaded term. It means a lot of different things, different people, etc., etc. But we'll tackle at least one kind of aspect of this, and I just want to kind of talk about notifications. To ground this, I will show some things that I built and some ideas I prototyped, and then we'll get to the part where I've gotten to and haven't made further progress yet. And then I want to kind of go into more discussions and like just I want everybody to maybe share their thoughts on like what would your ideal solution be, and just like talk about possibilities, not necessarily something that exists today, but just like let's discuss this problem space or opportunity space, et cetera, et cetera. So when I say notifications, I mean this, and I put AKA interruptions in the sense that that's always a good way of thinking of notifications, that they're things that interrupt you. So they're not always great because if you're doing something, you know, you don't necessarily want too many interruptions, et cetera, et cetera. So the reason you still have them is because they provide value. So we want to make sure that we balance this. So let me talk about a starting point here. And this is going to be a little bit disorganized. I apologize, but hopefully it'll get the point across. So GitHub is a website I use very often. Some of you may probably know it pretty well. It's for hosting a lot of code. A lot of open source code lives here. So this is a website that has, and by the way, I will show some, corp websites. I'll show my personal website that uses some of the building blocks, not all. So yeah, it's all work in progress. So on GitHub, there are two ways of receiving your notification. So like when you're working on a project, somebody may report a bug to you or send a pull request. You may want to know about it, especially if you care about that project. So how would you get notified? So GitHub by default will send you emails. That is something that's very common. Most websites, they handle notifications by just sending you email. Okay. Many people do that. GitHub also offers this web UI, and you can basically put a checkbox next to whatever you want. You can turn both of them on. So how many of you have seen the web UI for notifications on GitHub? You've seen it? You've sort of seen it? Yep? No? No. Okay. So I will show it now. This is going to be my own data, and right now I have a bunch of unread notifications, and that's fine. I'm getting through them, and yeah, usually this is a lot closer to 0. But the point is that this is a web app, and it kind of displays my notifications. So these are things that I, supposed to haven't seen yet, and that's why they're here. If I click on one of them, then the notification goes away because now I've seen that thing. So what it does is it groups everything by repository. So this is the Go and Go repository, and these are all the issues that I'm notified about there. This is another repo, and it has a pull request that's open, an issue that's also open, and there's some activity there. So this is just one of the ways you can display notifications. Okay. Now, one of the cool things about IndieWeb is when you build something yourself, you have control over how it looks, how it behaves, and you can experiment. You can do things that, in this case, GitHub.com hasn't done. So one of the ideas I had is some of these notifications, they're there just because I'm watching the entire repository. So like some activity happens and I get notified as soon as it happens. There are some other types of situations where I actually get mentioned. So they have this like tab for participating, and this kind of shows you only the participating notifications of where I've posted something and somebody else replied, but there's nothing that shows me like where somebody mentioned me, right? It's just participating. So I thought like, what if I could differentiate those things? The other one is that I had this idea. I wanted to kind of aggregate how I see notifications. So like this works for all the GitHub notifications, but then if I get Twitter notifications, it's not going to show up on GitHub.com. All right, so let's go to my personal website. So what I built here is something that tries to, solve this kind of problem and solve it in a general way where I will have a notifications web app. So it's not email again. It's just going to be some HTML in the browser. And what data gets visualized is kind of up to me. So let me show a little bit about that first. First,
So you're basically aggregating the tools you're using, so you have one to-do list,
something like that. Yeah, yeah.
or one notification.
Definitely, yeah, and that's a kind of important theme that I would really like to see a unified view. So I'd rather not have like multiple
To go
places
to
to
each
check.
platform, right?
Yep. Exactly. So let me first show a package called notification. So everything I built is written in Go. It's open source, and you will see some Go code or some documentation.
This makes me
Don't
think
be-
of Microsoft.
A lot of these things could be. Yeah. Like I said, it's a work in progress. But for now, this is a notifications package that just defines what the notification service is. And the idea is there are two important interfaces here. Well, first, let me just show briefly. This is a definition of a single notification. Again, not great. This will change, but it has a few things like it has a title, it has a maybe icon and color, and then whether or not I've been participating in that thread or if I've been mentioned. So this can evolve. But what's more important is that I have a service called service, notifications service. So in Go, basically anything can implement this, and then it can be used in a certain way. So there are three methods: list, count, mark all red. So anything that will, like any kind of concrete implementation of this interface, as long as it has those methods, I could use it in a unified way. So I have two implementations of this interface. One of them is called GitHub API. So if you look at this package, it says this implements notification service using GitHub API clients. So this package makes it so that I have the ability to give it a GitHub API client, so something that can talk to the GitHub API, and it produces a notification service, which I know I can consume. So another one that I have is a file system implementation. So this is implementing that same interface, but using a virtual file system. So if I go to my website, I have a blog here, and I wanted to be able to know when somebody comes in and posts something in one of my older blog posts, right? For example, this one, not the best one, but whatever, right? So like somebody came in 2 years ago, and they left a comment. So I want to know about this. So I wanted to have notifications from my own website. When I was kind of dog fooding this, not many people would post comments on my website. So I'm like, let me get an extra source there. I use GitHub a lot, so let me get GitHub notifications in there as well. So when I go here, let me do that in the background. That will display on my personal website notifications from the sources that I've defined, which are my personal websites and currently GitHub.com. And because I have this custom interface, it's very easy for me to be able to implement make additional implementations that use, for example, the Twitter API or other APIs, or maybe even like some of the Microsoft, like the indie web building blocks. So as long as you implement that interface, you can start to display notifications. So when it loads, you'll see basically a lot of the notifications, again, coming from GitHub.com, had somebody posted something on my personal website, there'd be a notification from there, but there isn't any right now because I've read them all. But one thing you also see is that there are these like highlighted colors. So horrible design, but it gets the point across for me. The red means I've been mentioned specifically in that conversation, so it's pretty urgent. The yellow means I've been participating. So I can see like I can visualize those things. These ones, I'm only seeing them because I'm watching that repository, so they're a lot less important. And like if I were to click on this thing, let me do that in incognito. So yeah, this is just taking me to that issue, and I can like catch up what's happening here. So where I want to take this further is one of the issues that I have with this now is that I have a way of like clicking on these notifications and seeing them what activity happened in the underlying thread, but as soon as I've done that, the notification gets marked thread. And sometimes that's fine, but what if, like, say I'm on my mobile device and I check this notification and I saw that this thing happened, but I know, like, I can't work on this until tomorrow. I don't have my laptop with me right now, etc. Like, I kind of want to save this for future, but now it's already marked thread. So, like, I don't have a great way of being able, like, if this were an email, I could maybe mark it as unread, maybe add a label to it or something. Here, with this UI, I can't do that right now. But here's where I wanted to like kind of evolve this, and this is where it becomes a little bit higher level and more theoretical, but I just wanted to like start by explaining this, and then we can maybe discuss it. So again, because all this is very easily customizable, it's my own code, I've written this, I can change it to be as I want it to be. So another source of inspiration here would be Twitter. So Twitter is something where I care a lot less about the notifications because they're just like things that have happened. Like in the social world, it's not often that there'll be something super critical that I need to work on a few hours on. So this is something that is a lot more lightweight, and the interface they have here is that when you look at your notifications, when you scroll through them, they kind of get marked as red, and they're basically visualized right here, so I can, without even having to click anywhere, I can kind of already see what's happening, or at least a pretty good preview. So what I've been thinking about doing next is solving this problem here, where if I click on one of the notifications, like say this one that's not very important, it gets marked red, and now if I refresh, so go ruined with, we'll eventually only have one notification left, and this will be something that I'm supposedly have seen and acted on. But yeah, so I think that notifications on their own are basically not enough. Like I want a way of being able to track what I've actually looked at, and then decide like, hey, is this something I want to come back to later on? So if imagine there are two kind of screens, so you see like now it's no longer here. Yeah, so now there's only one notification left. I can't get it back. So what I'm imagining is like if you split the screen into two, just like put this on the side and have something else on the other side. So what if the UI were like this? Here, it's an interface just for viewing notifications, and as you scroll through them, it could be just like on Twitter, where it kind of just marks things red, marks them as red. Okay. Right, and over here, if there's something that I scroll through and I realize that, like, this is important, I need to act on it, I'll be able to like drag it over and have it be listed in one of those to do, come back to items, etc., etc. So some of the other thoughts I've had where it kind of matters what device you're looking at content from. Like if you're on a mobile device and you look at something, chances are it might not be something you can deal with on a mobile device. Maybe it is. Maybe it's something that you just need. Maybe you need to call somebody, or you need to remember to your grocery shopping, so you can process that kind of an action item. But if it's something that you need a computer for, it should not do the same level of like marking it as red as if you're on a computer. So like maybe you could say this has been seen and has been read on a mobile device, but it's not like done. When I'm on a computer, I should still see it again because I haven't seen it on a computer yet.
You haven't taken action on it.
Right. Yeah. So these are some of those ideas. But honestly, at this point, I just want to turn the floor to you. Is that the right phrase? Anyway, I want to see like what kind of thoughts you have about how you'd like to receive your notifications, or AKA perhaps like what is your current setup, and are you happy with it? What would you want to change about it if you could have like your perfect notification system, et cetera, et cetera. So.
I personally only get notifications for like text or phone calls. Everything else I have off. Like all my social media, all of that. Like, to me, it's pointless. Even email. So unless I go in and check it, like I won't know I have it.
Things that I want to know real time.
Yeah.
If-
So
when
like
something
because
happens.
if somebody's like trying to reach me, I want to be able to be
Yeah.
like available.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, I'll just silence like the call or I won't answer the text. But to me, like having a point of contact is obviously important. And anyone who has my personal number, obviously. If they're calling, it's usually for a reason.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, it could just be for random chit chat, but for the most part,
That
it's
isn't
like,
as
hey,
pressing.
something's going on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like in your case, you're kind of dealing with this by having like you're only responding to things in real time. If it comes in and you deem it important enough, you deal with it on the spot. You don't have something like a backlog where things get piled up and then you come back to it and try to process that backlog because like most of those things
keypad button.
are not going to be super critical. Yeah, no,
Exactly.
that's a
and then
great
sometimes
solution.
like I'll just ignore a text message, but then I forget to go back to it.
Yeah.
So something
Yeah.
like a reminder would be good because sometimes I'll go through like I'll open my message app and it's like, you have like 10 messages. I'm like, what, where?
Got
And then I'm like scrolling through my messages, and I'm like, oh, I didn't answer that person from like 2 weeks ago. Oops. Like,
Oh, that's interesting. So
Yeah.
like those messages won't pop up to the
no,
top
I have it
because
all.
they're unread. Yeah.
Which I like. I mean, I feel bad because sometimes I forget to answer people, but I like that. Like, I don't want to have to have a constant stream of like, hey, look, you didn't read this message. Like,
I'm working really hard on the one-touch rule, where I can
Got it.
only deal with it when I have the ability to, and I read it, respond to it, delete whatever thing I need to do.
You mean you have like
Which is hard.
see,
It's a
the
hard
live stream
process
can't
to
see
do, but
through
you
it.
like make the time to deal with whatever.
Yeah.
If there's 5 text messages,
So
you make the time to go
you
through
deal
the
with
5,
them
respond.
right away, or
I usually glance at what has come in.
Yeah.
And then if I have time, I'll respond to it. If I don't,
yeah.
I'll finish my task and then I'll come back and I'll say, all right, I'll spend 15 minutes.
Mhm.
But what I like about notifications is I'm like you where I don't have a lot on, but like Slack, I use pretty actively. And I have certain Slack channels that I get notifications on that I'm keeping an eye on. So if somebody is delivering something to me that I need to know or they're offering feedback, I'm getting that information real time and taking action on it. But it's a little bit, my business day to day is a little bit different than kind of the development process where you're co-working with other people, you're creating code and someone else is looking at it or they're bug fixing. I have used some of the tools like Jira, and I don't wonder, does GitHub not have things like Jira where you can kind of take things through a process where what the priorities are as well as what the status is?
They have something along those lines more recently now. I think what would be the closest is their idea of projects.
And is that something you could layer on to
Sort of.
your
so what's
aggregated list? That functionality that allows you, because it sounds like that's one of your needs in this is being able to say this is top priority, focus here first, as well as this is almost done, this I need to spend an hour researching and coming back to, need to be on my computer, need to have that focused time.
Right, you're hinting at like kind of project planning, prioritization, and like sprints, et cetera, like that kind of stuff. So GitHub does have something like this, and that could very well be a partial solution to this. I guess I'm just trying to like find a way to understand notifications better at a more general, higher level, where there are supposed to be things that you get notified of because you expressed some sort of interest in the past, and you know when you see them.
But how do you
Sometimes they are
divide,
good.
the level of interest?
I was gonna say,
It's
like,
still
you know how
notifications
like
or
you
things
can
you
sort
want.
through things like an email by searching like a word. Like if you could make a cache of words that like, oh, if a text message has this in it, or if it has something like, oh, like it's an
Prioritize it.
emergency, like it'll
Yeah.
prioritize, and you can kind of
Right, so,
choose
like,
keywords to
Almost like priority inbox.
yeah.
In
So
terms of
it's like
email.
if I get a text message from my sister saying something like, oh my God,
Yeah.
call me right away,
Right.
like I'll get
I think
that.
you just
but
said something
you know what I
very
mean?
telling, like email,
Yeah.
which is basically, okay, so, no, I'm just saying, aren't we trying to solve a problem? Why are we turning notifications, which are supposed to be very brief things, to tell us that there was something else we had to do into long form email?
Well,
We're
not
trying to turn
necessarily
little
like
things into big
email.
things.
So I think you're hinting that hey, this is basically reinventing email, or trying to replace email with something else. Like, email already does that.
Not 100%.
I don't know that
I'm
that's
going
what I
the
heard
other
from
way.
what Jira
I'm
said.
going the other way.
Okay.
I'm saying that you're taking what was meant to be a brief medium, notifications, and you're trying to apply a long form medium.
I don't think that's
paradigm to
what
it.
I heard.
I mean, like, so for example, like, I guess to categorize it, like if there was an algorithm you could run on your phone that picked up certain words from a message, and say you like put those keywords like into the phone, like, okay, if I get a message that has the word SOS or emergency or certain tags that pop up, then I would get like a direct notification. Like my phone will make a sound, like it'll override my preset notifications, and it'll go to almost like an emergency
It's like
set notification.
like express line for notifications.
Yeah,
The red
sort
phone.
of. Like, you know,
Yeah.
when you get an
how about like
emergency alert.
channels?
Well, Slack has this
Yeah.
for each Slack channel. You can say like
Interesting.
notify me whenever there's a new message, notify me just when I'm notified, or don't notify me. And
Like all my notifications are on silent. Like I don't
Mhm.
get them, but like say I get a text, I have them set to like always vibrate, even
Right.
when my phone is on silent.
Yeah.
So I'm like, but when I get an emergency, like flash flooding, my phone makes a noise. Like it makes that
Right,
like, it's an
yeah.
override thing.
Yeah.
So I'm
Right.
thinking like if there were certain keywords that I had put into like an algorithm or something, my phone would know, okay, if she gets something coming in that's with
Becomes
these
a flash
keywords,
flood alert.
it'll make that noise, so I know, okay, this is something important, I need to handle it now. Does
So-
that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Let me kind of zoom out and say that like what I'm sort of seeing perhaps is that there may be two strategies, or like two ends of spectrum of how you deal with notifications. One of them is kind of real time. Things come in and you might hear this like loud buzzing noise because it's an important thing and you deal with it right then. And there's the other end of the spectrum where things kind of come in the background, you don't look, and they kind of accumulate because like you haven't been
Yeah.
looking, so they're coming in real time. So the more you don't look, the more of those things have kind of accumulated. So then you have this problem of how do you go through this backlog? Do you just ignore it? Do you try to look through it and decide like I've seen these things now?
Maybe something similar to a count timer, so like if you hit like 10 messages, your phone will be like make a noise or do
Mhm.
something that's like, hey, and like, oh, that means I have like over 10 messages, I should probably look at my phone.
Right.
You know.
So what happens when you look? Like when should notifications go away? Should you like acknowledge them? I've done this task, or should it be like it's been on my screen for 2 seconds, therefore you've been notified?
It feels like in my mind, there are two types of notifications as well. Transactional, like these are the things I need to do and act on.
Yep.
And then these are ways to get you back to Facebook, onto Slack, right?
Oh, okay,
So,
yeah.
so that kind of second piece isn't as time sensitive and prioritized, but it gets you. It's a reminder to nudge you back to that platform, or
It's a way
to
to pull you
see
back
the
in,
updates, the things that are happening on the platform that maybe you want to know
Yeah.
about. And it feels like the transactional ones are always going to be prioritized. In order to do your job, to be responsive, you go there first. And so how do you manage those two things? But then how do you prioritize in real time so that you don't get hundreds of things a day,
Right.
but also
Because it's never a problem if you have like 2 notifications in a week. No matter what kind of notification system you're using, that's not a problem. It only becomes a problem when you're dealing with like more and more things and you kind of feel overwhelmed by them. Like that's when the system breaks down, right? So that's when it matters more how good of a notification system like your process is, and yeah. And I think another factor is that how many things you're potentially subscribed to. Like
Right.
if you care about what happens like everywhere in the world in all kinds of contexts, and
all
you want
you
to be
do all day
notified
is read notifications.
on all these issues. Sorry.
Then you'd spend your whole day reading
Right.
notifications.
Then you have potentially like a big amount of work coming your way. Now, if you're like unsubscribe from this, unsubscribe from that, and then just wait for people to actually like call you or like directly email you or something like that, then you have a lot fewer things to worry
That's
about.
the practical psychological question. What are you afraid of in not being notified about something?
Mm-hmm.
What are you comfortable not knowing?
Right. So like, if somebody comes in and posts on my blog, I kind of want to know because it happens so rarely that when it does, like it's a cool thing that I want to know about. If somebody creates a new issue and like, say.
But what if you're a social butterfly?
Yeah,
Well,
what
what
if
if
you're on your
a
knees,
lot
of
of-
course, you're like,
what
I'm
if you're
just
the
kind of using
community
my own.
manager? It's your job to respond to that question as soon as it comes in.
Right, like say,
Yeah,
look at
that's what I'm going to. I'm
this
trying to lay out
repository.
the different
Yeah.
levels of these.
So
Yeah.
there's been like activity like almost every single day. There's a whole bunch of things, and you can see like there's a bunch of things, and each one is something has happened. Like this was a pull request that was closed. This one has been merged. This issue has been closed, and there's a lot of activity. And like for every single update that happens here, that would trigger a notification from GitHub. So like, do I need to know about every single one of these comments?
I
Probably
can
not.
draw a kind of parallel. So I get notifications when people mention pages on my site. So when a web mention comes in, like somebody liked a post that's on my site, I get a notification about it that goes to a little chat channel that buzzes on my phone.
Is it a daily or as they come in?
It's as they come in.
Okay.
So whenever there's a new one, and there are some fascinating things out there, like someone might mention a post on my site, and then whenever someone comments on their post, they'll notify me again because basically that page changed, and I might want to know like there's a new comment on that post. But what I see, because my system is really dumb right now, I'll just see this post mentioned you. this post mentioned you, this post, and I'll see that over and over because I don't have any kind of aggregation. And because it's so rare that things get mentioned on my site, mostly I'm fine with this, but every now and again there will be one post.
Yeah, but what happens if you write on a topic that people are really interested in and all of a sudden it gets shared all over the place and then you've got hundreds of
Then it blows
notifications
up.
coming in?
Yeah, my system is not ready for that. Like
I think we have something
I could go
now.
mute it. It's very
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
very
So
easy
mute
for
it
me
if
to
that
turn that
happens.
off. But it gives me a lot of pause to think about, like, my system could be much smarter. Like, I would love to, at the very least, like, batch those. So it's like, well, I already got notified. Like, literally nothing changed, so I'm not even going to send you that notification. Or, you know, changing what the context of that is. Like, the reason that mention came in is because someone else commented on a post about your post. Maybe I don't care about that either.
I have this, like, I know I've read this. I can't put it up there, so you have that.
Sure, I can paraphrase it.
snarfed.org/clustering-notifications.
Nice. snarfed.org.
I guess I would take, building on what you're saying,
Clustering
what can you
notifications.
learn from those
What?
notifications?
Clustering.
Was it the content of the
Space
post?
or what?
Was it
Dash.
the people that were sharing it, right? Like, is that
That's it.
person someone of influence where people are like,
Right.
oh, they're reading a post about topic X. I think it's
Mhm.
really interesting. I'm going to read it too, or I'm going to share it too. So you kind of are
Yeah.
learning through that behavior as well.
Yeah,
So that
that's
notification
fascinating.
helps.
So this
you.
is a blog post, about kind of like this topic.
Yeah, this is a few years ago, but
Cool.
I remember very distinctly reading it at the time. So I just found it.
Is there anything specific about it?
Well, this is
Or is it just
basically.
because it's so relevant?
Yeah, this is relevant specifically to the idea of you getting a lot of notifications about the same thing and how to sort of try to merge them together into one useful notification about multiple inputs.
Makes sense. Yeah, this looks very relevant. I'm not gonna read the whole thing now.
No,
but
I wouldn't say read the whole thing.
I'll save it.
I was citing it as a.
Good
Yeah,
reference.
Thanks. For now. Still, another thing that comes to mind. Sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna say, I think it's crazy how every single tool you use now has some form of notification. So
Yeah.
you really do have to manage whether you turn it off or
Yeah.
get it sparingly.
On that point,
Because that's-
I've turned off notifications from Netflix. In the past, I didn't, but now like it's starting to notify me about like here's a topic for you, here's a topic for you, and I realized
new
I
films
don't
that
want
come
I
on
want to
that
be
you're
like
really
the
interested in.
like driver here. Yeah.
Yeah.
With Netflix, I want to decide. Okay, I'm gonna open up this app. I'm gonna go watch a movie. I don't want it to notify me of something that happened there because nothing important happens there. At least not important enough for me.
Must have that off because they never told me anything.
It started to happen
It's
like
if
half a
you
year
get
ago.
like suggested movies
Yeah.
or TV shows based
Like
on the
something-
algorithm of like
Must be filtering it.
I'd be down for like this TV show that you really enjoyed and you want to see the next season of. There's a new season of it now. Like that'd be okay with me, but instead it's just like random stuff. So I'm like, and
It feels like they could do that when you sign in. They
they,
could push
they
that
could,
to
yeah,
you.
they have the controls in a way. Like maybe you need some way of indicating that this is something you
Or
care
when
about.
you're done, here's what to watch next.
Yeah, but it's just that. Yeah, I
I
had
think
to make
again,
that
it's a
choice.
nudge to get you to Netflix, though.
exactly.
Of course,
It's
right?
no,
like,
Like
you
that's
guys
yeah,
to
like
keep
that's
your time
there's
away
these-
from other things.
yeah.
and
Yeah, like
keep you on
everybody's-
there.
Here we are,
That's how
come
they make
back.
money.
Yeah.
Everybody's fighting
want
for
you
your
daily.
time.
Yeah.
You know, the more you're using
They
that
want
app,
you to watch more.
the better.
Exactly.
And that's
Like-
why people are addicted
Yep.
and like we're always on our
Yep.
phones.
somebody said I think
It's true.
like one of the apps like sleep is their competitor.
Yeah.
When people are sleeping, they're not using the app.
Most everything, sleep is a competitor.
So I want to come back to one of the points you mentioned, which was that like sometimes you'll see the same type of notification more than once. So how frustrating is it for people to kind of get notified about something you already know? Like it's maybe you checked your phone, you saw this thing, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna put my phone down. Then like 10 minutes later, you're like, okay, now there's a new notification. You look, and then there's two notifications. One you've already seen, and this new one.
I think it really varies. Like for me, it has to do with how interruptible I am. So if I'm sitting at home and my phone is next to me and it's blowing up, I don't care. I can ignore it. I can do
Wow.
whatever.
That's good restraint.
Well, it depends on what it is. But if I'm out and about, like if I'm here and somebody's blowing up my phone, I'm going to be really annoyed.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to focus on something else. And at that point, I'm likely, most of the time actually, I keep my notifications turned off unless I'm just at home doing nothing. And I just trust that like if it's really important, I'm gonna get a phone call about it, and
Okay,
and
so
I
you have, like-
will know that.
You have a way of like letting through some of the signal. Like
Yeah, but it's similar
So
to you where,
reachable,
it's
yeah.
like only
Because-
a small subset of people have a way to send a
Yeah.
notification any old time.
Makes sense, but let's just kind of realize that a phone call is a notification that is really urgent, and it stands out above all the other
Oh, yeah,
notifications. But like, it's just a notification. Like, imagine if your phone didn't let you know that it's a call is happening right now, and yeah, you totally
Oh,
miss
That
it.
happens a lot.
I get annoyed with that because I'm like,
When you
what
miss
if
a call?
Yeah, because it's like, what if I like, unless I'm
It's a-
silencing it, but if I miss it because like my phone didn't put it through properly, like
Yeah.
I can't sit in that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, so I missed something that could have been important, and then I
Yeah.
have to take the time to now call back or text and see what was going on, and it's just like, I mean, most times when it's like urgent, it's like they'll call multiple times, but still, like
And then you're putting the burden on somebody else anyway, but that's
Yeah.
a whole other conversation.
Okay. Are we getting closer to the end?
It's 5:30. We've got about 15 minutes.
I think we've mostly kind of been just brainstorming and kind of talking about different topics. Let's try to now maybe just basically think about the part of this where we try to make actionable decisions. Like, how are we gonna potentially do something about this? Should we do something about this? Like, what are the outcomes of this kind of brainstorming session? Because yeah, I think that'd be nice. If anyone thinks that like you have some ideas or thoughts for how can we like improve the status quo, and both like for yourself, like maybe your own setup. If something changed about my setup this way, I would be happier. But also like maybe in general, because this is a problem that's affecting a lot of people. Like, think about how much time and attention gets kind of stolen from people when notifications are not being efficient, like they're wasting people's time.
I like the idea of the blog post. Is there a way that you could set forth some best practices or questions to ask to help manage your needs and behaviors?
Okay.
Is there a way that we could form a list of types of things to consider, transactional versus nudging, and then how to implement that? And it probably varies from platform to platform, because you'll likely care more about Slack
Yeah.
because you're using it for work versus Facebook that's really just personal as time allows.
So are you suggesting like a blog post can be made that just gives people advice
Yeah,
and
just
helps them set up, like helps them understand
questions to think about and
Yeah.
help
So-
them.
a little bit like this perhaps, but even more so like here are things you should be
Yeah.
aware of and here are things
like
you
a
could do.
resource blog
Yeah.
post.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Definitely.
like the same thing with like the blue light and the non-blue light. Like, people are aware that the blue light's not really that good for you, and a lot of people
Oh,
don't
yeah.
even turn it off. Like my brother and sister, they have no idea what I'm talking about when I say that. And I'm
Mhm.
like,
Like
and
night
I'm like,
shifts.
yeah, and I'm like, come on, and I'm like, change it. Like at least an hour before you go to bed, like shut it off and leave it off until like a certain time the next morning. Like you don't need it like all the time, kind of
Yeah.
thing. But it's like to have a resource like a blog that tells you like, hey, these are good notification
Yeah,
practices
things
and
to
these
use
are
on
things
God,
to
how
look
have I
at
not
and think
brought
about.
this
I
up?
think it's a good idea.
Have y'all read or seen anything about Amber Case? She was an early person in the indie web, and she put out a book called Calm Technology. She does a lot of talks on it, kind of synthesizing a bunch of research over decades about not only notifications, but also she has a whole thing on blue LEDs and like why are they and everything. And Calm Technology itself is about like finding the minimum level of attention that a system could possibly need to get information to you in the time that you would want it to come across, and that it touches all kinds of stuff that we haven't gotten into, like something that buzzes on your wrist is very discreet versus like a loud ringtone versus something that's going to pop up on your screen versus something that's going to make a sound, and she's got a lot of really good stuff
And
on
I think
that.
it's also important for people to realize that like people who are on their phone every day, like constantly like looking at notifications, they get almost this like phantom notification alert. Like,
Oh, yeah.
and, like you think your phone's going off. Like sometimes my phone will be on a table, like, and I'm cooking, and I swear I hear it vibrate. I go to my phone, there's nothing on it, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
That's
You
funny.
I'm
become
going
like
nuts.
hypersensitive
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
you start to expect
exactly.
them to be there. Yeah.
which
It
I don't think is good
feels
because
too
then
that-
you're like not in the present moment. You're constantly
Yeah, it
like,
creates
is
some
my
of
phone
that
going off?
ADD too, though, because
Yeah,
Mhm.
you're
like,
focused on your
oh,
task. You're like, I have to get this done, and oh wait, text message. Oh wait, Slack notification. Like
Yeah.
you just managing that is really hard as well.
Yeah, because it takes your attention away from what
Yeah.
you're working on and it's
Yeah.
putting
Takes
it
that
towards your
focus off.
phone. Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, one of the things is that like we should kind of maybe think about the benefits and the disadvantages of notifications. So the benefits could be that it helps you not have to worry about missing things that are important to you.
Yeah.
So it can save you like this kind of time and anxiety because without them you would have to constantly check
Right.
those things. Are there updates? Have I missed something?
Yeah.
On the other hand, it can actually like basically go all the way to the other end of the spectrum, and now you're getting so many of them. They're the ones that are causing you to have this kind of anxiety, and you're like constantly feeling that maybe something came in, but there was no notification, right? So it's like there are costs and there are benefits, so like you don't want the costs to start to overweigh the benefits. Well, okay.
We didn't talk about either too some of the notifications that there are dependencies, right? If there is a notification that you get because someone's expecting something from you, how does that get prioritized to the
Right.
top of the list? Because
Yeah.
you don't want to be the log jam and hold things up.
Yeah.
You want to know what they did is ready for you.
Yes.
You can do your thing and pass it on to the
Right.
next and keep it moving forward. But that's also a really hard kind of workflow to manage,
Yeah.
that you want to know when it's ready, but you also have to then stop what you're doing and get onto that so that you keep it moving forward.
And related to this, like where do we draw the line of, I mean, maybe ideally a notification should only be responsible for letting you know about something, but then maybe you'll have like 2 hours worth of work to do as a result. That's not really the notification's fault. Like you
Right.
would have that work anyway,
Right.
it's just that now you know about
Yeah.
it. And
Or you know it's
should we
ready.
attach that to the notification or not? Maybe we shouldn't, or in some cases I should.
But the person before you that you're the dependency on might have had a problem and needs you to do more work. So what you think is 2 actually is 6.
Yeah.
Like that's the hard part too of if you're waiting for that notification, it comes and you're like, I'm gonna spend an hour on this, and then all of a sudden you're like, they didn't do X, Y, Z, or I have to go back and check, la 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 la. Then you're spending 4 hours instead of that one that you thought.
Yeah.
It's hard. Are they a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure. And like years ago, we didn't have them. We still got the work done. It's probably more efficient now. Working remotely is easier.
Yeah.
There's better tech, but
I feel like we did have them. I mean, most, like, think about email. Anybody who's had email is a notification service. Like, you get notified when somebody sends you an email. And maybe you didn't check your email every day back then. Like, maybe you check it.
I think it's more
Every
of
few
a
days?
real-time notification
Yeah,
now
it's-
than it was
yeah.
back then.
yeah. But I mean, I worked on web projects, and the team we'd have meetings, or we'd go to each other's desks. Like,
Isn't that
I checked the
also a
bug list,
notification?
it's
like, if
done.
somebody taps you on the shoulder.
this is a real problem on the bug list of the 20 things you asked me to look at. Look at that. You know, so
Yeah.
we survived without it years ago.
I think they've just kind of
It's
morphed
more
into
efficient
something else.
now.
They're more widespread. They're more accessible. They happen, like even Netflix has them, so they're everywhere. But they have existed. It's just that like, if you go back to like caveman years, I guess you would still have notifications even in that world. Like somebody could come in and tell you like now you should go hunting or something. I don't
Start
know.
a fire.
Yeah, this is a notification. I'm
You're hungry, yeah. Totally, like your body does notify you about stuff. It's another point that might be worth thinking about is probably a little bit late in the discussion, but whatever, I'll mention. I feel like in a way notifications are also like kind of in a way related to advertisement.
It's absolutely advertising.
Oh, yeah.
The nudge side of things is
Yeah.
absolutely advertising, for sure.
Right, and it's like if you were to solve somehow like the problem of notifications, it could be kind of similar to like solving the problem of advertising. Because like advertising is like trying to let you know about something that hopefully is useful to you, but there's a lot of misinformation too.
Get people back to the site, or get people to read content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it helps some people,
Or act on something.
and
Yeah.
it's not useful to many others.
Yeah.
Like what if a website could like notify you directly, like without even your phone, just like
Oh, that's the technology now.
like into your brain.
Service workers, well, not into your brain, but like through browsers. Like browsers now, a website now has the
Oh, yeah.
ability
Yeah.
through like a service worker API to send you notifications
Right.
on your laptop. I
Yeah.
don't know that any mobile support it yet, but like on your computer, you can get notifications from like NewYorkTimes.com.
I think I get that with Slack.com.
Product Hunt
if you
does it every couple of hours with
Mhm.
new posts that they put up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Calendar, Google Calendar.
Google Calendar
Yeah.
will do it. Yeah. So even if the tab is closed, you'll still get
Oh,
it.
Yeah.
even if it's closed.
Yeah.
Well,
That's too invasive for me. Like, if I want to know about it, like, I'll go to the page. But, like, other than that,
Yeah.
please leave me alone.
But if you're busy in the day and there's news that they want to share and you might want to get, but
then
yeah,
it's
very
like, you can
selective
go back
about what those
later,
are.
you know what I mean? And you could scroll, but, like, I don't know.
it sounds like
If you're
we
busy
all
in the
have like
day.
ideas or desires. Like we want this
Yeah.
to happen or this shouldn't happen, and then we have certain UIs to adjust notifications. But maybe it's a little bit
Yeah.
too hard right now to get what we want.
I mean, it is late to bring this up, but the people that I have seen solving this problem in the way that appeals the most to me are folks that are more in like the computer agent side of things. So you just delegate this to some system that you have it pull in everything that you might care about, and then you give it rules. So like, when the weather is going to be this, tell me I need to pack an umbrella in the morning. But also like there was a guy who he has a whole system of just rule-based stuff. You can kind of
So it's
drag
kind of
these
like
rules
if this
together.
then that for
Yeah,
notifications.
for like notifications about all kinds of stuff. So
That's
like
smart.
if
Things you want to know.
if there are a bunch of tweets about earthquake that are
Mm.
geolocated in
Your
California,
area.
like he gets
Okay.
notified of that, but he builds each of those, and so he's very
Yeah.
particular about what kinds of things he wants to get notified about and how.
The
You know,
advantage
that
of
stuff is like
IFTTT is basically that there are preset ones where you might not have thought what
Right,
you wanted to
yeah.
until it happened.
And you can implement. Yeah.
For
Yeah,
example,
those
would you
are
think you wanted to be
optional.
notified of earthquakes until you were in an earthquake, and then you said, next time I really want to know about this?
Mhm.
So sometimes sharing what your criteria are might actually be helpful.
As a collaborative thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not necessarily sharing what your rules are with other people, or having a common site where you post what your rules are.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating because it comes back to where does the control lie, and we have options on our devices to basically like stop the flow of something in just a very crude way.
Yeah.
And we can kind of control what we see. Slack is a good example of something that's like more on the side of user control,
Yeah.
but even still I think it errs on the side of being noisy. Whereas most of these tools, they're all built to like give us a little bit of control over whether we get notified by a source, but not necessarily. It's more on the side of what does that source want us to know, and less on the side of what do we want to
do
know
we want
from
to
that
know? Yeah.
source.
I think this can tie into when you're on a given web page. Like right now, it is a very difficult and kind of a problem that's solved in a non-uniform way. How do you sign up for notifications for something happening here, right? Like imagine if
How do
that
you
were
show
an
the
easy
value
process.
of signing up for that notification?
Sorry?
How do you show the value of signing up for that notification?
How do you show the
Because
value?
I'm pretty much always going to say no unless
Yeah.
it's something I really, really want to hear.
Sure, right. So what I'm saying is like if you're somewhere where you really do want to see
Yeah.
updates, right now, depending on what website it is, and depending on whether or not like you're logged in or not, you may have a way to like say subscribe to this, but generally like that's not the flow. Generally it's more like I subscribe to everything on this website, and as a result I will or I might get this, might get notified of this. I know like on GitHub for a given issue you can actually say exactly that. Say like for any issue you're looking at, you can say subscribe or unsubscribe. So they have this here, but that is only GitHub, it's only issues, etc., etc. So yeah, if I say subscribe down, I'll be notified whenever there's new activity on this particular issue, and I can unsubscribe, and then I will not be, unless I get mentioned, and then I will be automatically subscribed. So they have this here, but again, it's like super custom, and it only happens here. Like, what if we had this?
Only on their platform.
Yeah, so like they give us this option. What if it were us that had the controls in our hands, and we can do this on any web page on the internet, right? So like kind of like what this person had, where they could set up whatever criteria they're interested in being notified of. But yeah, have that be, put that control on our side. That could be interesting. down to like 2 minutes left.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thanks to everyone for participating in this. I think
Good
it's been
conversation.
at least fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I wouldn't even know
productive,
where
but-
to begin to prioritize what are the things I would want.
yeah.
Outside, like the work piece always is prioritized because I know I need to get information, I need to act on it.
Yep.
If I'm a dependency, I have to get it done and move it forward. But the outside personal side, outside of news,
Mhm.
I'm not so worried about. If I was living in San Francisco again, probably I would want the earthquake detector.
But I do have to
I'm not
ask
so worried about that here in
one
New
final
York.
question. Do you want to make those decisions yourself, or do you want those decisions made for you?
I think I'd want to be in control.
Because increasingly, back to earlier,
Yeah.
there are other individuals who think that they have to make these decisions for us. That's that whole algorithm idea.
What was the name of that thing? Hugen. That's it. I'll drop a link in the chat for this. This is like super deep, nerdy stuff to set up, but the software. Oh no, is that not what it was called? Agent something. There's apparently other software. Oh, Hugen with 2 N's. Excellent. So yeah, this is like a notification agent. Cool. Yeah, thanks for the discussion, everybody. Great, that's it.
Yeah,
It's,
thank you.
It's 5:45. We have successfully IndieWebCamped. We'll gather back in the main space. I'm going to go bug the other folks. And we'll do a quick intro to Sunday, talk about what's going to go down. I'm sorry, Saturday. Normally these are
Sorry, we
Saturday,
usually
Sunday.
do a weekend thing. We
Oh.
skewed it this time to
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah,
I was curious
intro
why
to Saturday.
Friday, because like it's a work day.
Space availability.
I'm
in this
going
case.
to speak on it at a different level because we had a lot of discussions about how we thought we might be able to get more people on a workday than we would on a weekend.
Yeah.
And
Probably true.
We'll see what happens tomorrow. Sundays are typically low attendance because people are like, this is my day to wrap up the weekend.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
so
there's a
No,
theory that
no,
maybe
no
we'll
matter
have more
what
people come to the
what
hackathon.
configuration we choose, there will be a subset of people who will just.
Yeah, at least this way you have both like a weekday and a weekend day.
Yeah, no matter what, we vary it up. So sometimes it's Friday, Saturday.